Hi, my name is Ricardo Costa and this is day 7 of 10 days of Photoshop. Yes, we're almost ending this free course, but we still have a lot to discover and we will do it in one more video of this series. In Photoshop there are some common tasks that you'll find yourself doing repeatedly while creating and building your designs. One of these tasks is resizing images in your composition, but this can be risky when working with raster images. If you scale up an image beyond its original size, it can lose sharpness and quality. Luckily, there's a smart way to work with images in Photoshop that can help maintain quality and organization in your document. In this tutorial, I'll be discussing the use of smart objects in Photoshop. I'll explain you why we use them and how to incorporate them into your designs. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a solid understanding of smart objects in Photoshop. To follow along, you'll need to open a specific document that I've prepared for this tutorial. You can find this document in Day 7, Smart Objects folder within the project folder. And the best part, you can download this project for free. The download link is in the description below. Once you have the project folder open, navigate to Smart Objects folder and open the Smart Objects Theory PST file to begin the exercise. So, what exactly are smart objects? Well, they're basically layers within a composition that contains image data from raster or vector images. And the cool thing about smart objects is that they allow you to perform non-destructive editing to a layer. Now, let's take a closer look. Over on the left side of the screen, we have what appears to be two identical images. If we look over in the layers panel, we can see that there are actually two layers, one colored left bird and one colored right bird. And if we look closely, we can see that the right bird layer has an icon on the image thumbnail, which indicates that it's a smart object. So let's test this out. First, I'll select the left bird layer and press Command T to activate Free Transform. Then I'll scale the image down and back up to its original size. As you can see, this causes some deterioration in quality, making the image look a little bit pixelated and not very sharp. Next, I'll select the smart object layer, the right bird, and repeat the same task. This time, however, there is no deterioration in quality compared to the previous example. So why is this? Well, the first example is a raster image, which means that as we scale the image down, pixels are taken away. This causes a loss of superficial quality even though the size of the image will be smaller. When we blow up a raster image, Photoshop has to generate new pixels to increase the image size, which leads to a deterioration in quality as we saw in the first example. Now, the second example is a smart object layer. This layer contains image data from a larger raster image. If we double-click on the smart object layer thumbnail, we can see the original image in a new tab. And if we scale this down and back up, it has no effect on the quality because we're not actually scaling the original image, just a representation of it within this composition. So, smart objects are essentially links to higher quality compositions within a Photoshop document, and they allow you to perform non-destructive editing to a layer, which is a great feature when you're constantly changing your mind about raster objects in your composition. Alright, let's head over to the right and take a look at how we can create and edit a smart object layer in your composition. For this example, let's open the file Smart Objects Composition in Day 7 Smart Objects folder on your project directory. As you can see, we have 4 layers in this document, and we want to make sure we will maintain the resolution while we work on them. So, to do that, we can select all of them by clicking and hold Shift, and then right-click and select Convert to Smart Object. Now let's create a little album display. We'll start by moving this image to the left and making each of the other images taking up some space on the right, and here's where things get interesting. We'll use the rectangular marquee tool to make a selection on the right hand side where we want our other images to go to. Next, we'll group all three of these images by hitting Ctrl or Command and G and then click on the layer mask icon. This will add a layer mask on the right hand side, and since they're all in the group now, we can move them around and they will only show up within that mask. To make them fit better, we'll hit Ctrl or Command T and on each one and shrink them down, making sure to hold Shift to maintain their aspect ratio. If we need to make any adjustments, we can always hit Ctrl or Command and T again and resize them. And if we want to change the main image, we can simply bring it back over to the other image, make it larger, and again with Ctrl or Command T, and voila, we have a new main image. We could continue to move things around and make quick decisions without losing any resolution as we go along, and if we want to undo anything, we can always hit Ctrl or Command Z to go back. Now, one of the awesome things about using smart objects is that no matter how many times we adjust the size of our image, we don't lose any resolution. That's right, no loss of quality whatsoever. That's our first major benefit of using smart objects. Now, let's move on to the next big benefit, applying filters. To demonstrate this, I'm going to take our original image here and duplicate it. So we right-click on the image and select Duplicate Layer. Then I'll remove the Smart Object status by right-clicking again and selecting Rasterize Layer. This turns our Smart Object into a normal layer, and now we have one layer that's a Smart Object and one that's a regular layer. Let's hide everything else so we can focus on these two. Now let's go to our Smart Object layer and apply a darker grade to the image. We'll go to Image, down to Levels, and in the pop-up window we'll make the image a little bit darker. Hit OK, and voila, the image is now a bit darker. But here's where it gets really cool. If we take a closer look at the Layers panel, we'll see that we now have a new layer called Smart Filters above our Smart layer. This is where magic happens. Now let's say you closed Photoshop, went for a coffee and then come back to edit your image again. But this time you don't like the way it looks, it's too dark and you want to brighten it up. Unfortunately, it's a raster image and the effect is already applied. What do? Well, that's where the Smart Objects layer with Smart Filters comes in. With the Smart Filters layer applied, you can double-click the Smart Filters layer and it will bring up the levels adjustment again. This is the big game changer in Smart Filters, my friends. You can make your adjustment again, whether you come back after 5 minutes or 1 year. Smart Objects are a powerful tool that not only helps with sizing, but also with any filters you want to apply. Here's another cool thing. I can actually apply that level's adjustments to these other Smart Objects too. Remember each of these 3 layers I made Smart Objects? Well, all I have to do is hold Alt or Option and click on this little circle thing and drag it up to these other filters. Take a look at this. And then the same exact level adjustment is getting applied to these other layers. And the best part, I can still turn this off and on at any time. So it's the same exact levels adjustments that we applied to the other image. And if I want to, I can just double click here on the level adjustments and I can change these settings a little bit. Maybe I want a little bit more darker on that one. So there you have it. Not only can you save a lot of information but turning these effects off and on, but you can also copy them from one image to another. Smart filters are definitely a game changer in Photoshop and they can save you a lot of time and effort in your workflow. So that's Smart Objects in Photoshop. It's a good habit to use them as you will retain high quality at all times. So in the next video we will talk about type and how to use it in your designs. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.